So I want to upgrade my PC soon. I was gonna go to Micro Center in Boston, but I don't want to upgrade unless I get a 4090. Like I just want to go all the way. You know what I mean? Like it's a little different because like being a streamer, I can get away with some of that. You know what I mean? So it's like part of the job and all this stuff. So like if I'm gonna upgrade, I might as well go all the way. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to drive all the way to Boston. It's a pain in the ass. And driving in Boston is a pain in the ass. Not that I can't do it, I just don't enjoy it. And to make the trip all the way there, I want them to have 4090s in stock, and they just don't answer. I've done their online service, I've texted them, I've done like all their they never respond. They just say check online, but online never gets updated. They don't update it. A new 4090 is a used car? Not really. I mean, I guess technically 4090s are what, like 1,500 bucks to maximum. If you get top of the line spec'd out and super cooler, it's like 2,500, right? A used car, you will be getting in a real, and this is someone who's driven those, a real box for 1,500 today. Like you'd be lucky. And I don't even know what this car market, because I remember my first car. My first car was technically something. It was a Trailblazer, but I wrecked that thing. My real first car, because I had the thing like a month. My real first car was a 1998 Cadillac DeVille. I got that for $1,500 in 2013. It was my box. It was my death machine. That was the car that had all the problems. The accelerator would get stuck. And I'm not saying the actual pedal. I'm talking about, so there's a little thing under the hood. When you push the pedal, it like pulls on the little string. There's like a little string you can pull. If you lift the hood, right, you can pull on that and it'll rev the engine. Same thing. The throttle on the engine would get stuck sometimes. The cable would get stuck sometimes. And the car would just rev itself into oblivion. So I could be sitting there idling at 650, and that's the best part. It was all digital. It was a 98, it was digital. And it would idle, warmed up idle was a 650 rev. When it just started, it was like 950, 850, whatever. But I would know, because if I was just driving and I was like sitting still, I'd be sitting at 650, like, you know, sitting at a light, whatever. If I stopped at a light and I was at 850 or 950, I'm like, oh, here it comes. And then over time, you know, over the next few minutes, it starts to rev in place at 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. Your car is revving at 3,000 RPMs in drive. If you let off the brake, it just starts going. And I had it happen a few times. The only way I can make it stop, and I had to do this while I was driving a few times, is you popped it into neutral, turn the car off, turn it back on, put it back in drive, and it would solve it like once every 3 times. So sometimes it wouldn't work and you'd have to do it again, but that was terrifying. Oh, I did it everywhere. I did it at lights, I did it driving, I did it on the highway. Highway was a lot less noticeable though. The highway was real spooky because you wouldn't notice it until you were at like 7,000 RPMs. So you'd like, okay, you let off the gas and you all of a sudden started accelerating and you're like, what the why, what? So you hit the brake a little bit and you're like, oh, it's stuck. Oh my God, that thing was a death machine. The brakes were for a bit, but I got those fixed. The heater core went, so the whole car dumped all of the antifreeze onto my passenger seat. Luckily, nobody was there. And then I drove it from Providence all the way back to Boston with no radiator fluid because it was gone, because it was leaking into my passenger seat. I drove it the whole way back with it overheating. Let the air of the wind from the highway cooling it down. It had a 5.7 liter swapped out, so it was way faster. The mileage was uncoupled, so it had a speed limit of 111 where the car would just like turn off. You know, like it would just like no, you can't go faster than 111. That was disabled, so it could max out at whatever, which was pretty high. The suspension was so instead of sitting as a level car, it sat like this. So it looked like a lowrider. There was a underneath metal plate, like a protective shield. Every time you went over a speed bump, you'd hit it. So when you over a speed bump, go boom, the whole car would smash off the ground. It was so loud. And the same thing would happen to the back end too. The amount of times I went and I heard ting, 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 ting. I was like, well, there goes something. Something fell off every time. It was, I had a perfect system for it, and it still wasn't great. I'd have to roll up to it and literally stop. I was sitting at the speed bump, stop. And then I'd have to like turn my wheel, so like one wheel went over first, and then the second wheel went over. And then I'd have to like turn it back if it was like not that big. So like obviously there's a car coming, I can't do it. And then one wheel in the back, one wheel in the back again. And that way I don't slam off the ground every time. When I had people in the car, I used to f with them so bad. And I would go over the speed bump like not fast. Like I would just like normally roll up to it so no one would ever see it coming. And we'd go up and go, bam! And everyone would jump a fucking mile. Like everyone would themselves like every time. Every fucking time. And like, what the what was that? Because I'll tell you, most normal people have never hit the ground on a speed bump before. It's funny as shit. Why would people want to ride with you? Dude, you're someone in college with a car. You're very rare. You know, like everyone wants to go somewhere. Everyone needs a ride, whether you're going to a liquor store, going to grab food or something. Dude, it didn't matter. And so I had teammates, friends, whatever. It's like, oh, like I'm going there or whatever. It's like, oh, I need to go to, like I'm going to Target. They're like, oh, I need to go to Target too. Can I come? And it's like, yeah, no problem. And then, you know, you drive there on the way back. There's speed bumps throughout the campus, you know. First speed bump, roll up real slow, and then boom, it just every time, dude. Every time without fail. It was so funny. I think that's what did it. It developed holes in the tailpipes. So it had dual split pipe exhaust, and then those got holes in it or something. So it went from being like, you know, a normally sounding car to just sounding like a demon at all times. It was very, very loud. Then one day, magically, the security system engaged, and we took it to a couple mechanics. Nobody could fix it. They said it has to go to Cadillac. Cadillac said they would do it. It would cost about $4,500 to fix. Car was worth $1,500. At most, maybe $1,000. You know, that's low end. My dad's like, that, we're not paying it. So he tried to fix it with someone else. Didn't work. He hired a literal like crack addict electrician who literally took a screwdriver to my drive shaft, or not my drive shaft, the steering column. Literally tore the whole thing apart. Got nothing done. Guy was a psychopath. Took it to a different electrical shop. They were managed to override it, so the security system was off, so you could turn the car on. However, it was constantly still engaged, so it was constantly draining the battery. So if you didn't start the car once every 2 or 3, like every 2 days, the battery would die because it would drain, the security system would drain the battery. So you either had to uncouple it or come start every day. And because I was in college and my car was on the other side of campus, sometimes I just didn't feel like walking all the way over there. So I just committed to leaving it dead for a week or two. And then I'd have to have public safety come and jump me and to jump the car again. But yeah, that thing was a nightmare, you know, because like otherwise I had to walk, like it was like a 15-minute walk, because like I was a sophomore and they were like taking away cars for freshmen and all this shit. So it was like a 15-minute walk across campus to go start my car, sit in it for 3 minutes, and then walk all the way back. And some days, dude, I just wasn't feeling it. What else problems did that car have? God, it's so cringe to think back at. But like, you know how people like had like nicknames for their cars or whatever. I went to a really rich kids school, so like everyone had like either really like brand new economy cars, slightly older sports cars, or you just had the rich kids who had the luxury cars. I was one of the few like low-income kids, but I had the fastest car in like the whole school, even like faster than the kids with like Mustangs and shit, just because theirs were all like stock. Okay, my car had one previous owner, and I only know him because we found a photo of him and his wife in the passenger side mirror. Like when you flip it down, you open the mirror thing. It was a photo of him. He was an old boat captain. And he was the one who like lowered the back end and swapped out the engine with a 5.7 liter V8. So the thing was way faster than it should have been. That thing was heavy and fast, and it just in straight lines was unbeatable. It just went. It was we had the cringiest name for it of White Lightning. because you just never thought it was going to be a fast car, and then it ended up being fast as shit. It was an actual sleeper. I never did any work to it though, because I was not that. And one, I didn't have money to do it, and two, I wasn't that type of person. I don't really know that kind of stuff. I knew very basic maintenance, but yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. I will say my favorite part of it is it had 70s style seats where they were like couch seats. You know what I'm talking about? So it's not like car seat, center console, car seat. It was one bench across the whole front and the back. So yeah, there was like a thing you could flip down with like cup holders and, you know, whatever. But it was the comfiest car. It's to this day, probably still the comfiest car I've driven by far. Like I won't even lie to you. I mean, I love my car now, but it's made me think about one day getting another Cadillac. One day, even though Cadillacs are kind of pieces of shit. So just because of how comfy that thing was. That thing was awesome. A legitimate death machine? Oh, it was. It was bad. It wasn't even the scariest death machine I drove. No, it probably was. I also loved the doors. It had those big, heavy-ass doors. You know what I'm talking about? The only way I know how to describe this is like, you know, like when you watch, if you ever seen like what it's like to close like the door of like a G-Wagon? You know how like it's this big, heavy metal door that just, and you hear it slam? You can hear, it just perfectly fits, if that makes sense. That's what the doors were like. You could feel it. What other problems does that thing have? Oh, it had the same problem as my Durango, where the brake was very loose. I had to get the, like the hydraulic on that changed, because it was basically, I pressed the brake pedal and it wasn't actually doing that much. Oh, the miles on it was, it said it only had 117,000 miles on it. That was bull. That thing, the miles is decoupled at one point, so the speedometer override could go in. Yeah, that thing probably had closer to 200K. Oh, it was hyper legal, but I bought it that way, so it's not my fault. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. That was not me. I just owned the car. I bought it off someone else that had done that. I didn't know. I figured it out later. So on the back bumper, there was this big silver strip. It's cosmetic. It's a big silver strip that goes along the bumper. The tail end of that was falling off. So I had it taped on. I had literal tape holding it on. I had some white tape on the back corner of my bumper. Oh man. I don't know if it had anything else cosmetically wrong with it. I will say it still had the Cadillac logo on the hood. You know what I'm talking about? Like the hood ornament, actual hood ornament. You know what I mean? Like the one that like sticks off the roof. That was there. That was still there. That thing was sick. Whenever people would walk by my car, they would always touch it. Every time, people would always try to touch it. They always wanted it. Not stolen yet? Didn't. Honestly, I think they saw the rest of the car and felt bad. It's like, damn, dude, we take off this hood ornament, that guy loses like 90% of the value of this thing. Oh, man. All right, chat, I got something to show you, okay? That same car, right? I told you the speed bumps were bad, the suspension was bad, but the back axle was also a little fucked. But I didn't know how fucked it truly was. One day, I went to AutoZone because my car was running a little weird, like it just felt odd. Was it AutoZone? I don't remember. It might have been a Pep Boys, but car was running a little weird, and I was talking to the guy in the store. He's like, honestly, dude, he's like, if you want, like, you can pull into the shop really quick and I can take a look. Like, I won't charge you or nothing. And I was like, all right, bet. I pulled in the shop, put up on the lift really fast, and we saw this. When I say miles till it was gonna go, it was bad. Because from the outside, it looked fine. From the outside, it actually didn't look bad. But from the inside, it was fucked. It was because of the way the axle was bent. The inside of the wheels were getting rolled. But the outside looked fine. The guy actually did not want to take it off the lift. He's like, dude, I can't let you leave this. And I was like, what? So my dad actually showed up, and they were like, yeah, Like, I can't give this back to you. He's like, you can't keep the car, dude. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So we ended up getting new tires, like, down the street. But the guy was like, dude, I don't even want to let you to leave with it. He's like, you can't keep the car here, guy. He's like, yes, I can. My dad was like, you don't want to play this game, bro. And I remember it was like a whole thing. The guy was trying to do a nice thing, but he also didn't realize how broke we were. So it was like we could just keep it there, pay for them to do the work, pay them to put tires on it, and, you know, be out a quick $700 or whatever, for like all said, because the other tire was just as bad on the opposite side. But yeah, that was from 2015. But yeah, because the axle was, we had no clue how bad it was. So even though the tires look fine from the outside, like, you had to like actually look in. And don't forget, it was an old Cadillac, so it was sitting like this. So there was only about this much room between the frame and the wheel. There was like no room. So it's like, it wasn't like it was, you know, you had like this much space where it's very easy. You can just kind of look in, you can see the whole other side. You couldn't really see it, so you could like kind of see the top and you see a little bit of the outside, and you're like, okay, like a normal tire wears somewhat around the same speed. Yeah, you do a tire rotation, so like it just like constantly is wearing like the same way, but not to that extreme. You know, like that's an extreme circumstance.